So our title today, what we're talking about is Welcome to the Temple. And we're referring to the body temple. And so today we'll be talking about the body temple and healing it or staying whole.
So you can start with the reading.
I'm going to start with a reading from Ernest Holmes that is entitled Perfect Reality is Manifesting in My Life. The will of God for me is the will of a boundless life flowing through me. It is the will of joy, of success, of happiness, of peace and abundance. It is the will of the kingdom of heaven, not absent from this earth, but perfectly seen. Nothing rewards or punishes me but the immutable law of cause and effect. There is no good that I cannot experience, provided I first embody that good. There is no joy that I cannot reach, provided I first clear my consciousness of anything that would limit this joy in myself or in others. I dispel any doubt in my mind as to whether or not God wishes me to have the best. There is no judgment, no condemnation, no criticism. I know that any belief in a power that harms is false. Every such belief is eradicated. There is justice, knowledge, right guidance. Divine intelligence operates through me without confusion, calmly moving forward, progressive, reaching outward. I am guided by infinite wisdom into that light that is eternal. I accept the gift of life for myself and for everyone else. God is right where I am. God is what I am. I enter into the conscious possession of this divine allness, this perfect reality. I know that it is manifesting in my life today.
Beautiful.
And so it is.
That should be a pretty easy thing to accomplish.
But we get to exercise that every day.
Yes, 1,000 times a day.
If we're lucky, yes. So the idea of the body as the temple of God comes from the Bible. It's referred to the body temple. And it's a nice way to refer to your body. You could say it every time you refer to your body. You could say my body temple, because a temple is a place where the holy resides.
Mhm.
And that is what we mean by that, that God in us, as us, is us. And so we are the home of the divine, our body is. And this is something that Joel Goldsmith said. Joel Goldsmith was a fantastic healer who came out of the Christian Science movement and became an independent healer. But he had fantastic results. I'll tell you about one in a moment. But this is what he has to say. The truth about you is that you are the child of God. God has expressed itself on earth individually as you. The life which is God is your individual life, and it is eternal and immortal. God is your very being, and even your body is the temple of the living God.
So my question to myself as well as to all of us is, how would we act if we got that was true? And I'm thinking, many of us grew up, as I know I did, wanting to be the best looking and the smartest and everything that was possible, not because I wanted to be all of that, but because I wanted the acceptance that would garner. And one of the things we learn fairly early on is where we think we fit in the hierarchy of beauty and intelligence and all of that. And often we don't score very well. And so we don't score ourselves as being part of the nature of God. We score ourselves as something quite a bit less. So the mission in this, which is a difficult mission, is to overcome some of our earliest learning, which is I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. And then if you get to be like us, who would become elders, it's even more difficult, because even if we thought we were wonderful and beautiful, we can't even remember when that was true, if ever. We're changing, and the changing, again, I think, is an invitation to re-examine the nature of who we are. So I wanted to take a minute to really talk about this business of our nature. If we're a finger on the hand of God, there's no bad fingers and there's no irrelevant ones. And I guess the thing I want to say most of all is God did not make any extras. And so you're not an extra. You're not a mistake. You're not a flaw. And that's something to kind of go through in your own mind when you inventory yourself and ask yourself, why aren't I acting like the body temple? Why don't I treat my body like a temple?
And this is something that most of us learn about and try to embody once we're adults.
Mhm.
And I've often thought too, how nice it would be if from birth on you were treated like your body is the home of the divine.
You know,
You are a child of God.
you did that though with one of your sons. You told one of your sons who tended to get sick a lot that he was a fast healer.
I did.
And so no matter what he thought of himself or the condition that he was in, he began to think of himself as a fast healer. What a message. What if you thought of yourself as a fast healer rather than, oh my God, I hope nothing else breaks. And, you know, we tend to think in terms of fear rather than possibility. We tend to think of what's wrong with us rather than what's right with us.
Yes, there are some lessons like that that can be very helpful if you introduce them in childhood. But one of our participants here today, I know, grew up in Christian Science, and her mother told her that she was, I don't know the exact words, but that she was part of the divine. She was perfect just the way she was. And she knew as a child that that wasn't true.
I've met her. I think it is true.
I know, but if you told that as a child, when you feel small and powerless and not enough, because there are always kids who are older and smarter and brighter and put you down and things like that, if you can't believe it, it doesn't do you any good. It might actually do your harm, saying, because I hear you saying that, but I know that's not true. You know, so, and I think that was her experience. I knew I wasn't perfect. So how could she say I'm a perfect child of God or whatever? So maybe it's best that most of us come into this understanding as adults when we don't feel so vulnerable and powerless. But it is hugely empowering to suddenly think, oh, you mean I'm not just a miserable sinner? Because that's what many of us were taught with our religions, is that we're all miserable sinners. And you just have to work your whole life to try to be good enough to get to join God in heaven after you die. So that's quite a struggle. That's a life of struggle. And so to be introduced to this idea, no, the divine dwells in you. And according to our teacher, Ernest Holmes, he says, and God works for you by working through you, by working through your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. And it works according to an immutable law, an unchangeable law that's always working, and it works according to your belief. So that's a huge responsibility.
It works according to your belief.
Yes.
You can't conceive what you can't believe.
Exactly.
We saw a special last night on BBC, which is an elephants, a family of elephants, and this mom had two elephants, which is unusual to have twins. And what that automatically meant was that from the time that they were born and for the first year, the chances were very, very good they wouldn't survive. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we saw their struggles to get through their first year. We saw them nearly pass away during that first year because of all the dangers that they were facing. But what's interesting, starvation, just about everything that they could be confronted with, from hyenas to lions to starvation, that they were confronted with.
To mud.
Mud nearly
upside down in the mud.
Mud almost did one of them in fairly early on. You'd never think of mud as a killer, but here it's floods. But what I wanted to say about that was there was never a question in my mind while I watched any of this that they weren't perfect elephants, that they weren't exactly the kind of perfect elephants that elephants are supposed to be when they're born. They struggled with and were encumbered by so many conditions. We always knew from the time that the program came on until they finished their first year that they were whole, perfect, and wonderful little elephants. And at the end of the year, they said the chances are much better now that they've survived this, that they're going to survive the rest. So they were talking about survival as if somehow these elephants weren't real elephants until they were, they'd lived their first year. And I'm thinking that we're perfect, whole, and complete, even when we're in the middle of all the mud. And when we're in the middle of all the conditions. And usually it's when those conditions are around us that we start wondering, am I any good? Is there something wrong with me? Why is this happening to me? The elephants never said, wonder
Oh,
what,
my
I wonder
goodness.
if I'm a defective little elephant. No, the elephant said, I'm gonna do the best I can to get through this year because it's part of what we go through in order to be able to be whole. But the point I wanted to make is I can look at an elephant and see a perfect little elephant. I look at myself and I'm not so sure, and it's always been that way because unfortunately, we often don't look at ourselves in relationship to who we are. We look at ourselves in relationship to how easy it is or how we think other people think that we should be or how it's supposed to go.
Exactly. So the theme this month in our Science of Mind magazine is about healing. So it's one of the very best parts of our
Yeah.
teaching. And so I'm thrilled to be reviewing it, using it for myself and my loved ones. There's an article in the magazine that it's called The Healing Presence Within You, that is all with all Ernest Holmes words. Let's see if I can do this.
You have to hold it close to you.
I was trying
Yeah,
to hold
there
it
you go.
close to me. It disappears. Doggone it. But anyways, the Science of Mind magazine, the June issue, and the theme is the body divine. So I want to share with you something that I liked reading and like being reminded of. The only way this healing presence can create for you is through the images of your thoughts, through the beliefs you entertain, whether these beliefs be hope, fear, doubt, faith, or failure. Therefore, you must correct all beliefs that deny this healing presence. In fact, you must go so far as to deny any negative agencies and to affirm that the life principle within you not only destroys all fears in your mind, but dissolves every object of fear in your physical body. Every object of fear in your physical body. That means any disorder or dis-ease would be an object of fear. And last week, we talked about going from fear to faith.
Mhm.
And that's what you have to do in this case when he says, let go of those and affirm the life principle. He also uses what maybe it said it there about dissolving. Yeah, that helped me image because I have a loved one that I'm imaging some areas dissolving. And that's a good image for me, that it dissolves every object of fear. Because we know that our body is spiritual substance. By substance in our teaching, we mean it's ethereal but real.
Mhm.
It's the material that God creates with, and our body is that too, and it's always changing. We tend to think that our body is fixed and that things take a certain amount of time, or we read up on the averages of what's healable or not and how long it takes. None of that is true. The body can heal in an instant when you totally accept the healing.
We're not solids.
We're not solids. We
Yeah.
are ethereal substance.
We saw a thing on YouTube earlier today. We were looking for the music we were going to use for today. And they were twins, identical twins. And the one twin was born healthy and the other twin was struggling.
Well, first of all, they were born 2 months premature.
Yeah,
so
26 weeks. And that's quite premature. So they're both in the premature hospital.
the preemie.
Yeah, and one gets to go home because he's getting better and the other one isn't getting better. Now, the condition that the second one was in was clear: difficulty breathing. They knew the medical problems that the child was having. And finally, they said, this child is probably not going to make it. So what the mom did was she laid the child who was dying down next to the twin that was healthy.
She brought the healthy twin back into the NICU and
Right.
put him in the incubator with one who was dying.
And within 5 minutes, there was a significant change in the child that was dying. They then did this again. I won't go through the whole story, but they did it several more times. And the impact of that was the child got better. And if we see a picture now,
He
came home. Yeah. And so the presence of that energy, the presence of connection, the presence of love at multiple levels is healing. And what it told me again is that we're not solid, we're in process, we're fluid, we can change, and anything can change. So any condition that we're dealing with is a condition. We tend to treat conditions like they're solids and beliefs like they're conditions. And what we really need to do is to think of the beliefs we have as the architecture for the changes we want to make, for the healing we want to do, and we can.
Yes, and that's a good visualization, this visualization of seeing ourselves as energy, because energy is always changing form, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, we say energy can never be created nor destroyed, but only changed in form. So
Have
our
you-
body is always doing that.
Have you ever been in some sort of setting where there was somebody that sat down next to you, or that was behind you, or that was near you, you never met them before, and you instantly felt this sense of connection and wonder, and had to look back to say, who is this? Because
Yes, you felt the presence.
because we all have a presence, we all have an energy. But what if our idea of ourselves is so impeded by our beliefs, our negative beliefs, that light can't radiate the way it would like to? And so we can interfere with it, or we can invite it to be stronger. I would also suggest that no matter how sick, no matter how difficult the conditions that you are in, you are still a light. And you are a light that can make a difference in another person's life as well as your own, even in the midst of your own illness or your own struggles or your own. And why I say that is we tend to think that when we're sick, we're just sick. It's hard to believe, but I've seen it again and again, where somebody that was sick, had a fever, and was in horrible condition, came out on stage or did whatever they did, and suddenly the room was filled with the energy, and they themselves got better because of that as well.
I want to address working with healing someone else. First of all, a caveat I have is that we never work to heal someone else without their asking, without their permission, because it's their will that's being done. And so, but Ernest says here, you may also use this God power within you to help and heal others. And since everyone exists in the same medium of mind, with a capital M, when you desire to speak your word of healing for someone else, you should first recognize the healing God within you, after which you should recognize the same healing presence within the one you wish to help. And he says, the more you use the law of this healing presence within you, the more completely aware you will become of the effectiveness of it, and more certain you will be that it is not I, but the Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. And I just want to say before you continue, because Bob's done several great healings, is that sometimes it's easier to work on healing others because you're not feeling their pain and their fear. You can know the truth more easily than they can because they're feeling the consequences of this dis-ease or distress. And so you can know the truth, which is that they're perfect, whole, and complete right here, right now, more easily than they can sometimes.
When I'm not busy being as good a husband as I can, and as great an artist as I can, and as good a writer as I can, I spend the rest of my time working in a mental health center, which many of you already know. And on the way to work every morning, I say to myself, help me to be an instrument for healing. Help me be the best instrument for healing that is possible. When I say that, I really have to open myself up to not knowing how that's going to work or how that's going to look. We often think that the work we're doing ought to look a certain way when it's done. I was talking to somebody and I said something rather funny, and she laughed and turned to me and she said, "Oh my God, you have no idea how important that was for me to hear today." And I said, and she said, that makes being here altogether different. And so you don't know, it could be a word, it could be a thought, it could be a touch on the shoulder,
Could be a laugh.
it could be a laugh, you don't know. So allow yourself to be an instrument of healing in this world. And you know, one of the people that's on today, she usually has a rainbow, but one of the things that I like as much as her rainbow, she has the most infectious laugh. When she laughs, it just makes my heart want to laugh. And you have all of you have some of that. You have something that when you do it is healing and makes a difference. So what I want to say, since we're talking about healing, is don't limit yourself to, it needs to look a certain way, there needs to be a certain outcome, because you're a healing energy and you will go where your need. It's kind of like water. You pour water into anything and it will find all the cracks, and it will either discover ways to escape or ways to be contained. And it's important.
A Course in Miracles said
I love
once
that.
about those that you are meant to help or heal. Don't worry about seeking them out. They will come to you.
Yeah.
So whoever shows up in your life is an opportunity for you, if that's what seems appropriate.
But wouldn't it be nice for you to say, help me to be an instrument of healing, rather than, why do I have to hang out with these people? Why do I have to spend time with that person? Why is this person such a pain in the neck? What if when you went to the doctor's office and you're sitting with all of these other people, you said, allow me to be a perfect instrument of healing, however that could look and work. And then you just looked at different people and said, I'm imagining that I'm an instrument of healing in this room. You're no longer in a waiting room, now you're in a healing environment, and you're one of the healers. In fact, if it really goes well, you should be able to go up later to the desk and say, I'd like to get a check.
Yeah. So the body divine, the body temple. It might be a challenge for you every time you talk about your body to call it the body temple.
I think
And
it's a good challenge, though. We need a way to elevate how we speak of ourselves, especially if we've had a negative conversation about ourselves, if we have viewed ourselves as less than rather than undiscovered. I mean, I would just like for all of us, if we can't get from negative to positive, get to neutral. I may not be all that great, but I'm not bad. I'm at least neutral. Now allow me to express what I can in any way that I can that would be useful and make a difference. Allow me to be an instrument, whether I do everything well or not.
Well, and we were talking earlier before we started recording about this process of aging. And
I put a stop to that.
Along with that comes many opportunities for self-healing because the body is in its last third of life, and
when did that happen?
I don't know, offers opportunities for healing frequently. And so it's important to remember that we still do that. We can still do that. We are not hopeless and helpless.
In the movie on Golden Pond, when Henry Fonda is being talked to by his wife, Katharine Hepburn, and she said, I met the middle-aged couple who lived down on the other side of the lake. And he said, people don't live to be 140.
We're not middle-aged.
This age thing is interesting challenge, yeah. And I really get that, though. And I've been talking to some elders, and we talk about what's interesting about time is it isn't the same as it used to be. Something that happened 10 years to me is something that happened maybe a few weeks ago by comparison to the way it used to be. So our time is changing, our sense of time, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we shouldn't have all of the same references as we get older, because we're changing and we need to be in a changing world.
Indeed. So I just want to end with a quote from someone I don't know. It's an author, Molly Remmer, but I think it's something we all need to hear. She said, there is more than enough time to weave strands of the ordinary into your own holy text. You are more than you know, less lost than you feel, and whole in your center.
That's beautiful.
I think we
That's beautiful.
all feel lost at certain times,
Right.
And we all need to be reminded.
And I wanted to make a comment about last week. We had looked at our finances and doing ministry, and said this is going to be a tough month for us. So I mentioned it last week. I said, if you can, and you can contribute, please do. I'm amazed at the response we got, and very honored and pleased that you are supporting us the way you are, because it helps us have a ministry that reaches out further. This last week, I've reached out to no less than 5 people in the country, each of them going to different places in the country with a huge need for the ministry that we're offering. And what they've said is, I don't have any resources. I don't even necessarily have a home, but I will find a way to watch you guys, because what you're giving is so important to us. So why I'm saying that is your contribution isn't just to the ministry that you're seeing here. It's to the people that we can contribute to that really need that ministry, that can't sometimes even get from day to day without a lot more support than you and I necessarily need. So think about yourself and the gift that you're giving as a gift that you've given to so many more people. And thank you. We really appreciate it.
And so in that regard, I will share a way that people can donate to our ministry. We are the Center for Spiritual Living of the Palm Beaches, and our website is cslpalmbeaches.org. So when you click on that, you see right here ways to donate. This pops up and you see ways that you may easily give. So let's say together now this affirmation for each one of us, that as we give, we do receive. My investment today is made with the full realization that God is the source of my supply and returns it to me enriched and multiplied. And so it is.
So